Have you ever wondered whether buying a new car today is truly an upgrade to your life, or whether you are unknowingly stepping into a long-term financial burden? Recently, the average price of a new vehicle has reached a record high, surpassing $50,000. Since the pandemic, vehicle prices have continued to rise by around 3.6% per year amid previously constrained supply and rapidly shifting market conditions. We always had this idea that a new vehicle was something that was attainable for every American. We've moved away from that premise. What stands out is that the cost buyers have to bear does not stop at the sticker price. Many car owners today may be losing on average more than $1,000 per month, not because of misuse or unusual incidents, but due to accumulating extra costs. So what is really going on? Watch today's video to understand the full story. Over the past few years, walking into a dealership and seeing price tags above $50,000 no longer seems as shocking as it once did. What used to be considered a price range reserved for premium vehicles where buyers expected durability, better materials, and a sense of long-term value now appears to have spread even to models that were once seen as mainstream. What makes many people uncomfortable or at least confused is that these higher prices do not seem to come with clear improvements in durability or long-term ownership experience. For those who once drove the same car for over a decade and still found it reliable and familiar, the current situation may feel like being pulled into a game whose rules have quietly changed. Buyers may not want to spend more yet find themselves with fewer practical alternatives. New cars keep getting more expensive, while used cars, once the sensible and realistic option, no longer feel as affordable as they used to. Looking at the average monthly payment of around $748, everything may initially seem manageable. On paper, this number does not appear too alarming and may even suggest that the market is still reasonable. But the issue may lie in the fact that this is only an average. It is likely pulled down by buyers who can make large down payments or who earn significantly more than the majority. In reality, a growing number of people are accepting much higher monthly payments. Nearly 1 in 5 buyers is reportedly paying over $1,000 per month for their vehicle. For many households, especially those who have long viewed a car as a basic living expense rather than a long-term financial commitment, this amount can feel like a recurring weight every single month, similar to a bill that never goes away. To make the monthly payment look more comfortable, loan terms have been stretched to 84, even 92 months. In theory, this may seem like a flexible solution. In practice, it often just makes the car look cheaper on a spreadsheet without actually making it cheaper over its usable life. As loans stretch longer, interest accumulates over time, and buyers may find themselves tied to debt for longer than the period in which the car still feels reliable. In a context where technology changes quickly, software-related issues appear more often, and maintenance costs become harder to predict. Continuing to pay for a vehicle that has already lost significant value may not offer much peace of mind. High vehicle prices also push many buyers to put down smaller down payments than they would prefer. At the time of signing, this may not seem like a serious issue. Over time, however, most of the risk shifts into the future. The initial loan balance can approach or even exceed the car's actual value. With even modest depreciation, buyers may find themselves owing more than what the vehicle is worth. During periods of unstable income, selling the car to escape the debt no longer feels like a viable exit. Refinancing under better terms also becomes more difficult, leaving many with the sense that they are locked into a financial decision that they initially viewed as simply buying a car. Looking deeper, the sticker price on the contract appears to reflect only a small part of the full picture. It does not fully account for long-term interest, financing fees, or insurance costs that rise along with vehicle values. Most buyers naturally focus on the monthly payment because it directly affects household cash flow. But when looking back over a full 7 to 8 year journey, the total amount paid can be significantly higher than the original price. The feeling of buying a $50,000 car but ultimately paying as if it cost $65,000 or $70,000 is likely not what many people imagined when they first walked into the showroom. Most people have long known that cars are depreciating assets. That has never been a secret. But today, the feeling no longer seems to be simply losing value over time as it once was. The rate at which new cars depreciate appears to have accelerated to a level many people were not psychologically prepared for. It no longer comes only from years of use or miles driven, but also from increasingly shorter product cycles, constantly changing designs, and technology that becomes outdated faster than ever. A brand new car, just leaving the dealership, seems to start losing value even before the buyer has had time to fully experience what they just paid for. For those who were once used to driving the same car for many years and still feeling that it was worth the money, this shift may create a lingering sense of discomfort, like a new rule quietly imposed without ever asking for their consent. Looking at specific numbers makes this feeling even clearer. A vehicle with a sticker price of around $50,000 after less than 2 years may appear to be valued at just over $20,000. This nearly 60% loss does not seem to reflect actual physical wear, nor does it align with the time of use. The car may still run well, still be under warranty, and still not feel old in the usual sense, yet its paper value has already fallen far behind. What stands out is that the car's value seems to decline much faster than the value the buyer receives from using it. This gap is not something everyone notices at first, especially when attention is often drawn to the monthly payment rather than the long-term depreciation curve. With extended loan terms and low down payments, many buyers quickly fall into a sensitive situation. The remaining loan balance exceeds the car's actual value. This is no longer a problem limited to the first few months, but something that can persist for many years. In practice, buyers find themselves underwater, even while the car is still quite new and considered modern. In such circumstances, even a small financial disruption can push everything into a dead end. If the car needs to be sold, the sale price may not be enough to pay off the loan, forcing the buyer to add cash out of pocket. If they want to trade it in, the old debt may be rolled into a new loan, causing the financial burden to grow over time. And if they keep the car, they must continue making regular payments on an asset that is losing value faster than the pace at which the debt is being paid down. It is not surprising that more and more people are considering the idea of returning the car. This likely does not come from irresponsibility, but from the feeling that there is no longer a reasonable financial exit. However, returning the car does not seem to be the solution many once believed it to be. The remaining debt may still exist, and buyers still have to face the unresolved gap. To some extent, this appears to be a sign that confidence in the idea of owning a new car is gradually eroding. At the same time, the number of vehicle repossessions continues to rise, including cars that are still very new, have low mileage, and remain under warranty. This suggests that the issue does not lie in cars being old or worn out, but in buyers no longer having the financial capacity to keep up with payments. The financial system in this case tends to treat vehicles as purely financial assets, with little concern for personal circumstances or the stories behind each contract. All of this seems to be reshaping the concept of ownership that many people were once familiar with. In the past, a car could lose value over time, but its usefulness remained relatively stable. Today, the more common feeling may be paying steadily, while the car's value declines faster than the benefits received. Owning a car, therefore, no longer feels like a stable state, but more like a temporary condition tied to prolonged financial risk. One of the biggest changes in modern cars, yet one that is rarely discussed openly, is that a vehicle no longer feels like a purely mechanical machine as it once did. Instead, it increasingly resembles a complex electronic and software system where metal and mechanics serve only as the foundation. Hundreds of electronic control units are distributed throughout the car, each responsible for a specific function, from operation and comfort to assistance and safety systems. Behind all of this are millions of lines of software code running continuously, invisible to users and difficult to fully understand. The issue may not be the presence of technology itself, but the fact that each new feature is not simply an added convenience. It also seems to introduce an additional potential point of failure. As the number of systems grows faster than the ability to control them, the likelihood of malfunctions rises as well. Unlike traditional mechanical problems, which were often easier to identify and relatively straightforward to fix, software issues appear more unpredictable, harder to reproduce, and not always fully resolved. A single small flaw in control code or unstable communication between modules can disrupt multiple systems at once. This can cause the car to behave inconsistently, working fine one moment, then not the next, creating a sense of unpredictability that many longtime drivers find difficult to accept. The feeling of, "I understand my car," is gradually replaced by, "I hope everything works today." It is not difficult to see that the number of recalls has increased sharply in recent years. This seems to reflect the limits of current technology rather than isolated carelessness. Most recalls are related to electronic systems control software or unstable interactions between electronic components. Recalls, once rare events, now appear to have become an almost normal part of a new car's life cycle. In the past, when a component had an issue, the impact was usually localized. A single faulty part rarely disrupted the entire experience. Today, a malfunctioning control unit can cause multiple features to stop working at once, preventing the car from operating as expected. This easily leaves users feeling that they no longer fully control a vehicle they paid a significant amount of money to own. What raises further concern is that the perceived quality of materials and fit and finish does not seem to keep pace with rising prices. Even as vehicle prices climb, interiors increasingly rely on simpler materials. Hard plastics appear more frequently, assembly quality can be inconsistent, and panel gaps are not always uniform. For those accustomed to the solid, durable feel of older vehicles, this contrast can be quietly disappointing. Technology, in theory, is added to improve the experience. In practice, however, many basic functions are now pushed onto touchscreens and become entirely software-dependent. When software responds, slowly freezes, or simply feels unintuitive, the initial convenience can quickly turn into frustration. Tasks that were once performed quickly by feel now require patience and sometimes a bit of luck. In this picture, buyers appear to be paying more for technology and electronic systems while having to accept longer repair times, higher potential maintenance costs, and reduced stability. As a result, real-world usability seems to decline faster than the sense of value for money buyers hoped for when they signed the purchase contract. Try paying attention. One of the changes that has caused the most discomfort for many people in recent years may not lie in engine's design or fuel consumption, but in the very concept of buying a car. In the past, when someone signed a contract and drove the car home, it almost meant they owned everything the vehicle was capable of doing. No extra thought, no additional activation, and certainly no need to ask permission every month to keep using it. Today, that concept seems to have shifted quietly. Buying a car now often feels like purchasing only the basic hardware. Access to many features depends on whether the user continues to pay recurring fees. Ownership, once clear and straightforward, now feels fragmented into temporary usage rights, accompanied by conditions that not everyone notices from the start. What confuses many people is that a large number of these features physically already exist in the car. The hardware is the same, the technical capability is already there, but software decides which features are enabled and which are locked. In this case, buyers are not necessarily paying to add or upgrade anything new. They appear to be paying simply for permission to use what is already built into the car they purchased. From the manufacturer's perspective, this model likely provides a more stable revenue stream. Selling the car is no longer the end point, but the beginning of a long chain of income throughout the vehicle's life. Subscription fees, unlock fees, and service maintenance fees gradually become familiar sources of revenue. In this context, the car starts to resemble a revenue-generating platform rather than a complete product fully handed over to the buyer. What stands out is that each individual fee is usually not very large. On paper, they look small, even acceptable. But when added up month after month, year after year, they form a significant expense. Users also find it hard to avoid these fees since many features are tied to daily driving experience and have been used from the beginning. Recurring fees therefore quietly become part of the cost of ownership, even if they are not always emphasized at the time of purchase. Over time, buyers may begin to feel they are gradually losing control over their own vehicle experience. Features can be turned on or off, not based on technical condition or real usage needs, but on payment status and service terms. Driving once personal and direct now seems influenced by factors outside the owner's control. Viewed as a whole, this model appears to blur the line between owning and renting. Buyers still pay a high upfront price and still carry loan interest, yet must also make regular payments to maintain the experience. This makes car ownership feel more like a form of long-term leasing, while most of the financial risk remains with the buyer. The impact does not stop with new cars. In the used car market, vehicles once advertised as fully equipped may lose part of their experience if the next owner does not continue paying fees. This can reduce resale value, since not everyone wants to take on recurring charges for a used vehicle. The car as a result becomes less of a standalone asset and increasingly dependent on the manufacturer's software ecosystem. For decades, used cars were seen as a reasonable financial exit. Buying used often meant accepting slightly fewer conveniences but gaining peace of mind in return. Fewer screens, fewer complex electronic systems, and most importantly, predictable costs. A car might not be flashy, but it seemed to behave itself and do what the owner expected. In recent years, however, that familiar feeling appears to be fading. Older models, known for durability, simplicity, and ease of use, seem less common. Many people are holding onto their cars longer, perhaps, because they are hesitant to step into the world of new vehicles filled with hard-to-understand technology. This has unintentionally made reliable used cars scarcer, especially those not heavily dependent on software or complex control systems. When something becomes scarce, markets tend to react quickly. Dealers likely did not take long to notice that buyer psychology had shifted. As confidence in new cars shows signs of weakening, used cars, especially low-tech ones, suddenly become more attractive. As a result, used car prices no longer seem to reflect age or mileage, but rather buyers' anxiety about the alternatives. Some vehicles that are 2 decades old are still listed at prices that give many people pause. By traditional market logic, this seems contradictory. Cars are expected to lose value over time, and where? Yet now, used car prices appear to reflect something else, a lack of safe choices. Not because the cars are exceptionally good, but because the remaining options feel even riskier. Buyers in this situation seem trapped between two uncomfortable choices. On one side are new cars, high prices, dense technology, unpredictable costs, and the feeling that control is no longer fully in their hands. On the other side are used cars, more familiar, but no longer easy on the wallet, sometimes leading people to question whether the price truly matches the value. The option that is both safe and affordable seems to be slowly disappearing. As the price gap between used and new cars narrows, the market begins to apply subtle pressure. Buyers may hear phrases like, "just a little more, and you can get a new car." On paper, that sounds reasonable. But behind that choice often lies a longer loan, heavier financial commitments, and deeper dependence on systems users struggle to control. It appears the market is gently steering consumers toward new cars, even when long-term risk may not actually be lower. Rising used car prices, whether intentional or not, make new cars appear more worth it than they truly are. New cars sell more easily, high-price models are reinforced, and the cycle continues. Buyers take on more depreciation and additional costs, while peace of mind, the very reason many once owned cars, becomes harder to find. In the long run, this may be reshaping how Americans view car ownership. Instead of seeing a car as a stable asset that supports daily life, many may be gradually accepting long-term financing as a new normal. The idea of buying a car to keep for years, repair when needed, and fully control costs no longer seems as clear as it once was. Looking at the bigger picture, the issue is not only that cars are becoming more expensive, but also the way costs are stretched out, broken into smaller pieces, and quietly follow users throughout the entire ownership period. Many people may feel they have already paid enough when they sign the purchase contract, only to realize over time that the ownership experience itself continues to charge fees. Technology may not be the problem, but the way it is being used appears to leave buyers at a disadvantage over time. Perhaps it is time for consumers to take a closer look at the true costs behind every modern vehicle. What do you think about this trend? Share your perspective and join the discussion in the comments below. To wrap up, this video is for educational and informational purposes, only based on publicly available sources, manufacturer documentation, and automotive research. It does not aim to favor or criticize any specific brand.